Hi, this is Talia Segalink with Thinking Mom's Revolution, thinking out loud where questions are answered and answers are questioned. And I'm really excited to be here today with my good friend and an amazing autism dad, Rupert Isaacson.
Thank you for having me on.
Thanks for being here. So I think most of our viewers know the Horse Boy movie and know the book. Why don't you give us some Cliff's Notes about what that was about for those viewers that may not be as familiar?
Okay. For those who know the story, I apologise if I bore you. I can be very boring. For those that don't know, here's what happened. I've always been a horse guy. My son was diagnosed with autism in 2004. I didn't know what to do, but I thought he wasn't safe around horses because he was so wild. What happened was, in the event, he brought me back to horses. I stopped riding. I got very depressed. I was in some sort of despair, but I always knew that he did better outside. And we would walk in the woods that you can see behind us here all the time. He didn't tantrum when he was in a natural environment. So one day he saw my neighbour's horse Betsy and went for her. And we started riding together, and I got my first expressive speech from him. It was extraordinary. We lived in the saddle together for about 2.5 years, and in the end we did something a little crazy. We rode across Mongolia together, and we didn't come back with a child that was cured of autism. I don't believe in the need for a cure for autism. I think autism is just fine. But we did come back with a kid whose incontinence and his tantruming and his inability to make friends, he left that behind him in Mongolia. And when I got back here, I got curious. I was like, well, is it just him? Is it other kids? So we started running unofficial playdates in the area, and we got the same response from other kids. So something called Horse Boy Method was born, which is a 6-stage process by which we work with kids and families. We set up the right environment, we work on their sensory issues, then we ride in the same saddle with them, and I can go into why that works so well in a minute. Then we work on perspective taking, rule-based games. From there we teach academics, anything, maths, French, geography, science. And when they get too big to share the saddle with us, self-advocacy, that's our 6th step, that to speak for themselves, to find a voice and make a case for themselves. That's really our work, and we don't any longer depend on horses. We do this with all sorts of play equipment. It's really kinetic learning, but it's been a long journey from 2004 to 2013, and that's really where we are.
Let's back up a little bit. So you take your son to Mongolia, which is amazing.
Perfectly sane.
Yeah, right? Not only your son, but your son who has autism.
Yes.
Who does this? Like, what were you thinking?
Honestly, I have to say, because my family we're British South Africans, and in my family, when you have a problem, you go in the bush. You go out into the wilderness and you sort it out. So that's very much part of my family thing.
So there's a cultural precedent
exactly.
there.
And then, because I have another hat, I've got many hats that I wear in my career. One of them is I'm a journalist and I work in human rights. And I work in human rights with Bushmen hunter-gatherers from the Kalahari Desert in southern Africa. I had to bring a delegation of those guys to the United Nations in 2004. It was the same year that Rowan was diagnosed. It was the same year he met Betsy, met the horse.
So it all just fell together.
It did. Some of those guys were trained healers in their culture. They met Rowan. There's a great result. I thought, okay, radical and positive reaction to the horse, radical and positive reaction to the shamans. Africa's not a horse culture. Where is there a horse culture?
Mongolia.
It's Mongolia. So
Gotcha.
I did that. But I wasn't looking for any sort of cure. It's weird.
Yet, he came home and the incontinence was much better. How much do you think that had to do with fermented reindeer milk? We just want to know.
Not fermented reindeer milk, my love. Fermented mare's milk.
Mare's milk.
Horse milk.
Horse milk.
Now,
okay.
I didn't give Rowan the fermented stuff because it gets you a little buzzed. And he flat out refused to eat anything other than bacon and wild greens that I would pick for him while we were there. So he didn't
So this
eat
very
any of that
organic, all-natural diet while you were out there.
Well, I was eating it.
Okay, okay.
He was eating whatever I could get into him, you know. But I think there is something about the radical change of environment. I think that there is something in going to a place that's completely natural, where you are away from all of the negative sensory triggers. No fluorescent strip lights, no industrial machinery, you know.
Which is very much like what you've created here. There's no industrial machinery, there's not a lot of lights, it's very peaceful and beautiful, Earth, right? And so you've been able to, the adventure continues here.
It does.
And in some ways this is so much bigger than Mongolia.
This is more immediate. You know, people think that we were crazy going to Mongolia, but I think that...
And you were.
Well, I was crazy before I went to Mongolia. But, but the bottom line is this. Anyone who's an autism parent, you guys are autism parents, you know this. You guys routinely go to Mongolia in your own living rooms every day.
Absolutely.
You know, and when a trip to the supermarket is so stressful because strangers come up to you and tell you what a terrible parent you are because your kid is acting up and so on, you might as well go to Mongolia. You might as well take an adventure, because autism is an adventure. Autism is the adventure, I think. I think, in a weird way, autism is the adventure of the human spirit, because kids on the spectrum and families dealing with the spectrum are leading sort of human life squared, cubed, if you know what I mean. It's so much more intense. So why not dive right into it? Why not embrace it? Why not get curious about it?
And yet, there are things that I think autism parents, you know, the kids that are in pain, the kids that are dealing with incontinence, the kids that are having tantrums, there are things that need some healing.
Absolutely, and those we can address. I mean, right here at New Trails, Horseboy Method, we're dealing with all that. We're dealing with incontinence, we're dealing with speech, we're dealing with social skills, all of the challenges that go with autism. But those are challenges. Autism itself, you're going to interview Temple Grandin soon. You know, she's autistic. There's no problem with being Temple Grandin. But when Temple Grandin was younger, she had some challenges. I've had a few challenges in my life. You know, is there a fundamental problem with being Rupert Isaacson? Maybe. Some might say so. But what we're saying here is that these natural challenges that all human beings go through are addressable. We just have to find ways that work for this particular population.
Quickly, Rupert, tell me, I know that UT has been doing some studies about what you've created here and how the Horseboy Method works and the kinds of outcomes that are coming along with it, the camps. Quickly tell us a little bit about that, and I also want to hear a little bit about the new book.
Okay, so we've just completed a study with the University of Texas Department of Education, and we were looking at the family outcomes from horseboy camps. What we found was that there were three main areas of amelioration. One, which you'd expect, was the fine and gross motor skills, but the two which were really good were a massively improved family dynamic between parents, the married couple, and also the siblings.
And this is in a 3-day camp.
Yeah.
In a 3-day camp, the family dynamic changes that much.
Yes, because they continue to record the effects weeks and weeks after the camp.
It's amazing.
But then the third one, almost more exciting than that, is a massive increase in sensory and cognitive awareness, that the meeting place between the nervous system and the brain. It's nice to have this data that backs it up, because this is obviously something that we've been observing for many years. So we're now going to move on from this and deepen the study, and also go into a study with the Department of Kinesiology at University of Texas and take it further and see where it goes.
It's really exciting.
Thank you.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about the new book.
Okay, the new book. The new book is called The Long Ride Home, and it's everything that we've done since Mongolia. The 3 further journeys we did. We were in Africa with Rowan, with shamans there. We were in Australia. We were on the Navajo reservation. The whole Horseboy Method thing, and the families that we've been working with, and how that whole thing has grown into a sort of a tribe, really, that's worldwide now, where we work in Europe, we work here, we work in Australia.
You're worldwide. You're global.
It's because autism is global.
Yes.
So really, we're all global, aren't we?
Yeah. Okay, so for the viewers who are interested in learning more about the Horseboy method, and maybe you're interested in trying out some of your work with their child, how do they get more information?
Okay, come to our website. The website is horseboyworld.com. You don't have to rely on horses for what we do. Starting this year, we're rolling out a whole new set of trainings around various kinetic, movement learning techniques to use not just with autism, but with ADHD, ADD, dyslexia, anxiety disorders, depression, and so forth. And we found that, because you know this, autism is a proving ground. Autistic kids are so unforgiving that if it doesn't work, they won't try to meet your approval by claiming that it works. They just, you know, won't respond. So anything that works with autism is going to work with anything else that's neuropsychiatric. So that's where we're going to now. So even if horses are not your thing and you're thinking, well, I live in, you know, a tower block in London, how is this relevant to me, this horse thing? We've found out how to emulate what we do with the horses with regular play equipment, even in your own living room. It can work on that level. So that's where we are.
Okay, well, I encourage everyone to go to horseboyworld.com.
Horseboyworld.com.
And find out more information. Rupert, thank you so much for thinking out loud with me today.
Thanks, Tony. Thanks for having me.
Great. This is Talia Segalink for Thinking Moms Revolution.